I didn't realize that that was like a special thing when someone you don't know who works with musicians all the time is really excited about what's been created. And I felt so proud of it. I started sending it out to blogs, playlists, and I think it got like 200 rejections.
Welcome back to another episode of Hero's Journey today with Vanessa Van Ness. Thank you so much for coming on. I mean, I'm sure listeners might notice this. It's been a bit since I've done one of these, and I wanted to not to put you on the spot, but I wanted to change it up a bit because normally I like write an intro for the artists and I'm like giving some context to them. But a couple things I noticed is one, at least for me, when I'm watching interviews with artists, I know who they are, so I don't like need an introduction, you know what I mean? But also I want to just kind of give you a chance. If someone doesn't know you or doesn't know Vanessa Van Ness, how would you kind of position yourself? Would you say artist, producer, singer? Like what if someone's asking what you do, how do you answer?
So I started out as a guitarist, but I would say that I'm a singer, songwriter, producer, and guitarist, and based mostly in Los Angeles, sometimes partially in the UK, but mostly in LA. And I make psych rock / alternative / electronic music.
Awesome.
I hope that was sufficient. But,
no, I think it works. I think
these pitch things are always so difficult. You know what I mean?
It's hard, you know. Like I was in a music industry class, and they're like, you gotta have like the elevator pitch, like who you are, what you do, who you're similar to. I was like, I don't know. I feel like I just need to like talk to someone more than like one elevator ride and just explain like what they're, because I also do like a good amount of stuff, so I want to like know what they're interested in that I do and like focus on that. Sure. It's hard to pitch yourself. So
I know. Totally.
Yeah, but you make awesome music, a bunch of like psych rock inspired stuff like you mentioned. I found out about you from your song Crumb Giver, which we actually connected over TikTok for that because on one of my social media videos, I'll say, I forget exactly which one, but I'm guessing I do a series like finding samples and similarities in songs, so I'm guessing, or no, it was for a teaser of one of my songs or a song that I'm working on. But yeah, sorry. So I put that in and I was like, I'm trying to get better with the whole TikTok thing. Like I don't know much about like audios because for years I've just like put up the videos with no not like adding an audio on TikTok to it. So I was like all right, let's see if this actually like works, helps, anything like that. And I went into the sounds and just the first thing that was under recommended was Crumb Giver by Vanessa Van Ness, and I was like, sure, I'll put that on. And I like listened to a second of it. I was like, okay, it's also kind of like similar to the song I'm making. It's like a bit techno-y, electronic. So yeah, I'll put it on. And I put it on, but because I'm playing music in the video, I just muted it and like listed it as the audio. And we had kind of like a funny exchange on that. I'm glad you didn't take any shade from me muting your audio.
No, I left you a cheeky comment that was like,
yeah, exactly. But I went in.
I don't mind that you muted the audio.
Yeah. But yeah, I went in and I like listened to the full version of that on Spotify after hearing it. It's such a cool song. So let's just start with that. Crumb Giver, like how I guess how did that song come about? Like anything about that, the meaning behind it, just whatever you want to say about Crumb Giver.
How do I say this? So Crumb Giver, it came about after it's about a confusing dynamic that I had with an ex-close friend who was also sort of at times a situationship, and I think I felt used by this person off and on, probably up until the end of our friendship. And when the friendship or whatever it was ended, I think I felt pretty blamed, and in any dynamic, I do think that there's always two people are feeding into something, and there's definitely things I wish I had done differently. But at the time, I kind of felt like I never really got to say my piece or process or make sense of a dynamic that was really not good for me, or I think good for either of us. But I felt like there was a lot of things that I never got to say about sort of being strung along, what I felt was being strung along and kind of just
Yeah.
thrown
You
into
wanted to
this
say your
thing. I think we've
piece,
all
like
been
you like
there.
get your
Yeah.
side of the story.
I think
Yeah,
we've all been there. And so I
definitely.
wrote it like I want to say like 2.5 years ago, about two-ish, 2 to 2.5. And then I produced it at the same time because I always I even though I play guitar, I usually don't start out on guitar anymore these days. I usually just produce and write at the same time. Um, so I wrote it and produced it, and I finished the track, and then I shelved it. And I wasn't really sure if I wanted to release it because, for one thing, it felt really personal, but it also, the lyrics are really pretty biting. Like if you
Hmm.
listen to them, they're pretty brutal. So I mean, but they were also honest. They were like honest to me and how I felt about it, and they weren't, you know, unfair. But I think for me personally, I questioned whether or not releasing it would be a good idea. And so I shelved it for a long time, and then I had friends who were reaching out to me asking when I was going to release it, and thinking that I completely should release it, and telling me that I was stupid for not releasing it. And why
Yeah.
is it still sitting there? And but what really did it for me was that I finally had this friend who was like, oh, when are you going to release Crumb Giver? Because I have a friend who's going through a similar situation, and I'd really like to send it to her. And so I think at that point I realized that there was a point at which songs become bigger than the people they're about.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
um, it had already been so long then that I was just like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna release it and see what happens. And yeah, that's what happened. And then in terms of like the whole TikTok thing, which I think you were curious about as well.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
always release, yeah, that was probably like your next question, because
It's
how?
on there somewhere. I have my
Yeah,
notes here.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
on
for
it's on there
sure.
somewhere.
Totally. So I always release music through DistroKid. I don't know what distributor you use, but
I'm the same distro kid.
they're like 100% my distributor of choice. Like I've used other
Yeah.
ones that I won't like
If you don't
bash
use
or
DistroKid
mention.
and want to sign up, use my referral code in the
Yeah,
description. I'm
exactly.
just gonna shameless plug that right now.
Yeah, 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 totally.
Like
Um,
anytime someone's like, "What distributor do you use?" Like I'm gonna put out my first song. I was like, not only should you use DistroKid, but like check out this referral code I have that gives you 7% off. Like,
yeah, yeah, totally, right. I should get one actually. I don't have a referral link, but I should go.
yeah,
I'm sure you just have it on
you
your
should.
profile,
It's
right?
pretty easy. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I don't know if they have any like requirements for it. It's just like hidden somewhere in like the crazy dashboard. There's like settings of everything, and it's this is literally just becoming like sponsorship for them or an ad for them. So I'll do that. But essentially, at least the way I think mine works, I forget the like exact amount, but you it's a link. Whoever's signing up gets 7% off any plan, and then I think once they sign up, you get like $10 or something like that from it as
Yeah.
well. And so I'm trying not to quote unquote like sell out to DistroKid, but I'm like whenever someone asks me, I'm like it is literally a win-win situation. Like you get a discount on a good distributor. I am just essentially getting money from the distributor. Like it's nobody loses here.
Right. Yeah, totally. No, I completely agree. Um, so where was I? Oh, right.
Okay,
Um,
using DistroKid.
so
Yeah, sorry
yeah,
to completely
no, no,
derail.
it's all good. Um, so I distributed, I always do the CML opt-in. I think there's like an opt-in when you distribute. So I did that and I really wasn't thinking much about it at all because I've had other, like most of my tracks are in the TikTok commercial music library, but like nothing has really happened before as a result of that. I mean, you can look them up and they're there for brands to use, but but anyway,
Yeah.
in the case of Crumb Giver, I'm not really sure what happened on the back end, but like one day I woke up and I just saw that all of these videos were being created with the sound.
Yeah.
And it was like at one point it was like 100 videos per hour. Like so I was getting
Jeez.
this many alerts of like, yeah,
Yeah.
and a lot of it was like TikTok shop creators.
Mm.
But some of it was organic as well. Like it seemed like it had some crossover. Um, and yeah, and then I went straight to the commercial library website because they have all the tracks listed, and I saw that it was in an editorial playlist, which I didn't even know they had
Gotcha. Yeah.
editorial playlists.
Yeah.
So like that was
Yeah,
all
no, I did
that
not
was
know that. That's so interesting
used.
because yeah, because
Yeah,
that's like every, I mean, maybe that's a lot of like artists or producers' dreams of just like wake up one morning and your songs everywhere, and it's like,
I know.
it's interesting that just like little thing of an editorial like trigger this whole spike in it because it is the kind of thing that like a lot of these platforms, Instagram and YouTube, everything, even TikTok, like uh, inherently recommends like songs or audios based on how much people are using them, or like if it's a trend, like obviously a lot of people are going to do it in a short amount of time, but it's like trailing back every audio, like there has to be something that starts it, or there has to be like some first video, and so it's like interesting to see like how that comes about, whether it's like trackable like this where it's like an editorial or just like random. I know there are some song trends that the artist is like, I saw like one person just like make this original video with my audio and I was like, oh, that's cool. And then another, and then it became a trend and they're like doing it and I was like, whoa, okay, that's
Yeah.
it's a little bit of luck if you want to call it a, but there's like still certain things that spark it, like editorials, trends. It's categories or like things. I don't know how to describe that, but there are things that will help it get the plays, but the catalyst to kind of spark that is kind of random.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. No, completely. And I'm so used to the whole I don't know if you watch Andrew Southworth's videos, but I'm so used to the
No.
whole no, he's like he's this big influencer on YouTube and he is a big proponent of meta ads, like running ads on Instagram
Mm.
and
Yeah,
doing
I've
that
heard
you
good
like
things about it.
trigger yeah,
Yeah.
you like trigger the Spotify algorithm and then you get placed in Discover Weekly and then that boosts your whole, thing. So I'm pretty
Yeah.
across that, but I had no idea. Like I'm sure you've noticed I have like 100 followers on TikTok, which was that
Yeah.
was another thing that was so crazy is that like I'm not until like last week I had like no videos up on TikTok. I've only just posted like two videos and I'm sure they're kind of rocky. I'm just kind of figuring it out
Yeah. No,
as
that's
I
fine.
go along. I'm sure you know all about that, like the whole
Yeah.
TikTok game. Um,
Well, it's just like again, kind of playing into the luck thing. It's just so, and it makes sense that it's not super formulaic, but it's like I'll see someone make a style of video or like do a trend, and I'll try to do almost that and get like a tiny fraction of the views, and I'm like, how does them doing that thing and me doing almost the same thing just
mhm.
have such vastly different results?
Yeah. Oh, I know. I've been going down a wormhole of like of TikTok strategies. I just
Yeah,
like all these
yeah.
videos. I'm like,
Well,
how do I
and it's so funny because
capitalize
you'll get
on
a
this?
strategist who's like, do this, and I make like two videos doing that, and then there's another one, and it's like, if you're doing this, that's so wrong. Never do that. And I was like, oh,
Yeah,
okay, well,
right,
like
right.
I don't really think anyone really knows what's going on.
Yeah, it's like some people are like time of day doesn't matter. Just post whenever. And then they're like post 3 to 5 TikToks a day as a musician. And then other people are like, no, just make sure you post every day for every single day. And then other
Yeah,
people are like 3 TikToks a week. Anyway, blah blah blah.
it's
But
insane.
yeah, no, I know I'm trying to figure all of that out, and I'm like so not, I know like most musicians or a lot of them have this issue where it's like I'm not really an inherent self-promoter, and I'm kind of
Yeah,
like learning.
yeah,
I always feel a little bit awkward about that, and I also don't want to make cringe TikToks. Not that they don't have to be cringe. Like I'm learning
yeah,
there's a way that you
yeah.
can make it not cringe, but at the
But
same
if you
time,
don't have that experience, they seem cringe, or it
totally.
comes off
Yeah.
as unnatural. Because I was kind of in the same boat. I was like, oh, I want to be a music producer, and I mean, I want to get into it because I've read about like your experience with your singing voice starting off, but like I pretty early on was like, okay, I can't really sing, I can't really rap, so like but I'm really into music production, so like maybe I'll do that. I'm okay being a bit more like behind the scenes. And basically, as soon as I decide on being okay behind the scenes, they're like, okay, but you have to promote yourself on social media and like be in front of the camera. And I was like, okay, well, I didn't want to be essentially a content creator, but that's like kind of the way to promote yourself nowadays.
Yeah, yeah, I know. I'm such a stubborn person, and I've
Yeah.
overcome. I've had to like, I've finally like one thing that this TikTok video creation thing that happened. I mean, or being on the commercial
Yeah.
music
Yeah.
library is that it kind of it has forced me out of my shell a little bit, where I've been like, oh, okay, maybe there is something here. I mean, obviously, everyone's been saying that TikTok is the number one thing that you have to do for like the last 4 years. People have been saying that. But yeah, I was initially resistant, so we'll
Yeah.
see. Hopefully, something comes of it. Most of my fans are on Instagram, and they message me on on Instagram, but I heard that Instagram doesn't like compare to TikTok's potential for virality. Like, I don't know if that,
Yeah, I've seen
yeah.
that. It's weird. I just recently saw like a friend I know just completely randomly like kind of blow up on Instagram, not profile wise, but like one video they did just like got insane. I think it's like in the thousands of likes and then back down to like, and this is not by any means like trying to go viral, but just like some like funny videos that they post, and then everything before and after is like back to the normal like couple hundred likes or like um but I was like, okay, so I guess it's possible on Instagram, but just harder. But at least for me, the way I'm trying to start looking at it, which it's taken a while to realize I want to be at this point, because like when I'm a fan of someone, like especially artists that I'm big fans of, I don't like feeling like I'm missing content or anything, or like for my favorite bands, like whenever they post on like Instagram, I want to watch it, I want to see what's going on with them. And so I am kind of trying to use like Instagram as like, you follow me there if you already know about me, want to like stay up to date, and then TikTok is more me trying to like appeal to the masses or find an audience and like bring them in, and more about discoverability for me.
Yeah. I think that, have you found that like um your like actual your monthly listeners or streams have increased like as a result of
Not really, but I also haven't
I've heard
had
mixed
that
things
much
about
success on TikTok yet. And so it's like people who have found success then get that result, but it's not, I don't think it's an inherent thing of just existing on TikTok equals a boost in that. I think succeeding on TikTok or having a video get popular then leads to that. Um, So yeah, it's a weird trap because it's I don't know, it's the weird I don't know what to call it, meme or whatever, of like someone mining in a cave and they like turn around and there's like diamonds just on the other side of the wall. It's like I've been trying to do TikTok and I'm feeling like, okay, whatever, it's kind of like in like random, like this isn't working when I've been trying all these things. But then at the same time, it's like the I don't know if I'm using this right, but also just I've heard like sunken cost fallacy is like I'm so far in it and I've done so much. It's like, what if I just like give up and I'm like, okay, this isn't working, but the next video I could have done blew up, and it's trying to avoid that kind of trap of keeping me there and keeping it honest, but I want to not write it off. I want to believe that there's a chance that something happens there.
I mean, I think like I think both are true, right? It's like
Yeah.
that is true that like that I mean, what's the biggest thing right now that's going on is that Sophia James like group 7 thing,
Oh
like
my
the
God.
musician,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
like you're in group 7
And I
and the whole
and they're like social media
yeah,
promotion people that I was like, know
yeah,
that they're like, you have to do this right now, like it will
yeah,
work, and then we do it and it doesn't work, and I'm like, okay,
right.
like that's kind of what I was getting into with the whole exact format doesn't match results. It's like you could do the same thing, yeah. But sorry, I cut you
I've
off.
heard that
Go
you
go
can.
ahead and
Oh no,
continue.
no, you're totally fine. I find these conversations about music marketing like really fascinating, and
Yeah.
a lot of people like if you're a non-musician, people are like their eyes glaze over usually if you talk about these things.
Yeah, yeah, I'm glad
So
I
it's
can actually
nice
get
to like
into
have
this
someone to
now. Like
talk
I've gone through, I think,
about.
like Crumb Giver and maybe something else were like the only like pre-prepared questions I've had this whole time. I'm just like going off in this conversation. I've forgotten my notes.
No, you're totally fine. I no, this is but
But I
it's
like it. It's natural. It's an honest conversation.
yeah, completely. And like with the Sophia James thing, like she said that she wasn't even planning on doing a TikTok that night and didn't want to.
Yeah.
And then she just decided to do it. And then of course it has at least for the time being changed her whole life, provided she can maintain that
Yeah.
audience base and momentum, which is its own that's its own other hurdle, right?
Yeah.
But like that's the kind of gamification I think of TikTok and why it's been so addictive for creators is because there's always that kind of almost a gambling mentality, but you don't have anything to lose, right? And so it's like what you said, I
Yeah.
think, where you're like,
It's
it's
it's free to
maybe
make
it's
the
the next
videos,
one.
free to post. It's gonna find at least a
Yeah,
small audience. Like why not kind of deal.
yeah, yeah. Why not? Why not do it? And it's funny, it has been kind of freeing because I feel like my sense is that the more you do it, the less concerned you feel about what other people think, maybe, or
Yeah.
like you
Yeah,
feel
I've
more
definitely felt that.
and less of a perfectionist about it, right? You get a little bit more detached, or I would hope that one does. I don't know, but
Yeah.
um, yeah, I don't know if that's
Yeah.
been your experience.
Yeah, no, definitely. It was always like, I don't know, especially with the editing, I was like, no, I can't put this up. Like it's bare, like it's not to the level that I know I can edit. It's not that good, all these things. And then I'll see the most like random one shot unedited videos go viral. And I was like, okay, so it's not about editing. Like you can, it's like just about being entertaining in some way. And that's another thing that I have had to get used to of like, I'm really trying now to anything I do, like center it around music, like not just do random things or whatever. Like I I recently had an idea and I was like a little bit disappointed, a little bit proud in myself of doing this, where I was like I had an idea for a video. I actually went and like filmed the whole video, and then while like transferring the videos from my phone to computer to like edit it, I was like, what am I doing? This has literally nothing to do with my music or like what I'm trying to do. Like, is there a point of posting this? And I was like, no, probably not really. And I didn't even like edit or go through with the video. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, so I that took a while to kind of realize or like come to the decision that I want to be specific with what I'm and intentional with what I'm posting. But yeah.
Yeah. Totally. I know that
Yeah.
that's another thing that you hear about is that like artists blow up like a video that they have goes viral, but not for their music. And then
Hmm.
it's like firstly, like that also trains the algorithm that to like seek out that type of content from you and then and it just doesn't lead to the result that you're wanting,
Yeah.
which is an
And
engaged fan
I
base at the end of the day. So,
yeah, I feel a little bad for like creators that I actually like follow and like where they got famous on TikTok for something and are now trying to do something else, and they'll like kind of balance the videos like for every three of what they're known for, there's one of this new thing they're trying, and you'll
mhm.
see it's like a million views, 800,000 views, a million views, and then the thing they're trying is like 200,000 views, and it's like it's just like people are getting shown what they know you for, or what they like about you, and not every single video of yours. And so it's hard to balance that, or especially on TikTok, I think it's hard to transition into a new style of thing, which as a perfect segue here, I want to get into like changing music styles or even like um I feel like on Instagram, posts can kind of be sporadic of like posting whenever you have a new song out, like, oh, this new thing's out, and the next post is like the next release someone has. It's versus TikTok, it's very hard to be doing something and like find success in it, and then try to start doing something new also on TikTok. Like I haven't I haven't really seen in like my own experience or my own eyes someone do that like successfully.
Yeah, yeah, that's good to know, actually. I'll keep
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. And not that
Post
I'm
my
a
TikTok.
master because I'm like my I think most viewed video is like 3,000 or something on TikTok. So it's not like and it's not like I'm viral on TikTok or knowing what I'm talking about, but um yeah, just kind of my experience with it. But yeah, I mentioned it earlier, and I'm so curious because I like felt like this for a long time or dealt with it for a long time. I was reading that you initially didn't like believe in your own singing voice, love your own singing voice, and that's what kind of pushed you into instruments or being a musician
Mhm.
first. Like I mentioned, that's why I got into production. If there's an artist listening who's kind of in that vein of like wanting to be an artist but insecure with their voice, like what kind of advice would you give to them?
Um, I think for one thing, it's completely normal to be insecure about your voice, unless you're one of those people that from a small age as a young boy or girl or as a kid, like you're singing and everybody's telling you that you're great and you can definitely sing. I think it's pretty like normal to feel unsure and uncomfortable about your voice. And I will say that I do think that anyone can sing. And the thing that takes time is that singing is like I'm by no means an expert singer at all. I don't consider myself that. But
Hmm.
like singing is a bit like acting, where you have to tap into an authentic version of yourself, but it's a specific type of character that comes onto the microphone or, when you're singing. And I think developing that specific tone is something that, and a specific character that's your own is something that just will happen in time as you keep doing it. And so I think and when I say it's like acting, I don't mean that it's inauthentic. You have to find a voice that is authentic to you. Otherwise it won't sound right if you don't do that. Like, or at least I've found that. Like, for example, I feel like we've all heard singers that can technically sing very well, but you don't want to listen to them. And
Yeah.
like it doesn't captivate you. And of course, all of that is subjective about what captivates one person may not captivate another. But for me, that's kind of how it is. Like, and you look at character singer, I call them character singers, like people like Bob Dylan, etc. He's not necessarily someone with a massive vocal range, but there's something that is so there in his voice.
Yeah.
And I think every great singer has that. And that is the thing. Like, so firstly, my advice would be to one, don't give up. And two, just because you feel insecure about it, it doesn't mean that you can't. And you probably can. And character development is the biggest thing, vocal character. And it takes time and you'll get there in time, as you keep doing it. So
Yeah.
very
Yeah,
long
absolutely.
answer, but
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And I know also people who like are very into production and didn't like their voice, but then as they got better at production and like learning to produce vocals, they were like, "Oh, if I use these effects on my vocals, if I do this, like finding ways to work with their voice," and they're like, "Okay, now I'm more comfortable using my voice on a song because I know how to make it sound good or like produce it." So there's always that path,
Totally.
but
I feel
yeah.
like Tame Impala does that a bit with his vocals, especially in his
Oh yeah.
kind of still. I mean, he can definitely sing, and I like his voice, but he does. You get this
There's
feeling
so many
that
effects
he
on it, and it's
hides
like kind of
behind.
buried in the mix. Yeah.
Yeah, but it totally works. It totally works. So then I think that's another really good point you've made is that you don't have to be someone who's singing really close mic'd and like have it
Hmm.
really audible in the track. You can have it be more about the music itself. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I love Tame Impala as well. I know
Yeah.
there's also a story. The reason I brought this up is because I heard a couple years ago a story with, um, I forget which one, but one of the chain smokers talking about making Closer, which was like obviously a huge song for them, but
Mhm.
they were like very set on like the producer role and weren't comfortable singing on it. And then just like some other producer friends of theirs like showed them auto tune and how to use that and different vocal effects, and we're like, you don't essentially we're like, and if you listen to Closer you can definitely hear this. They were like, don't put too much pressure on like singing the song, just like talk into the mic like you're telling this story, like just say the lyrics and then put these effects on it, auto tune it, and that's like it got them comfortable enough to put their voices on Closer. um
Wow,
and
cool. I
so
didn't even know that. That's
yeah, it's like
inspiring.
definitely, and I just love the whole thing of like producers or artists like building each other up and showing that, like not gatekeeping anything. Like, let me if you have, and I'm guessing I'm like it's fuzzy on the story because it was so long ago that I heard it, but I'm guessing it was like a close friend or collaborator. Like if there's someone you have a relationship with it or you're close with that you think you can help them out with music. I love just being like, hey, let me show you this thing, and like kind of teaching them about that or just helping each other out.
Yeah, completely. And I think is another thing like I've learned too that's been helpful is knowing that music is so subjective and there will be some people that absolutely love what you're doing and then there will
Yeah.
be other people who just like they just won't ever gel with it and it's not
Yeah.
really an inherent like for example
Every
like
every year the Grammys rudely remind me of that, where I have like
yeah
such a clear idea of what I think should be nominated and only like half of them are, and
yeah
I'm like,
totally.
okay, but this is better than half the things you that are like actually nominated.
I completely agree. Although the Grammys are kind of like the Oscars in the sense that they're quite political. At least that's my
Yeah.
understanding of it. So it's not just about it's it
No, it's
it's partially
definitely
merit based. It's
yeah.
partially merit based, but
Yeah.
um yeah, I'm sure there are some people who would even disagree with me saying that much, but
Yeah.
um, yeah. Uh, what was I gonna say? No, I know it's such, I feel like that is probably finding peace with differing opinions about your stuff is, at least for me, it's been one of the biggest kind of journeys like about being a musician, because I know I used to think about this a lot where um wondering whether or not the music that I was making was good and getting really in my head about it. And I've had, but like there was a time, for example, when I almost gave up on music because, for example, like um, how do I tell this in a linear way that's like not too long?
You can also
I
feel free
started,
to like make it a little bit
I,
longer. Like it's a
yeah,
long
well,
form podcast for a
okay,
reason.
so I'll give an example. I'll give an
Mhm.
example. So one of the first songs that I made was called True True Shot. And to this day, it's like one of my most popular songs. It's the song that probably people DM me about the most
Mhm.
still and comment about on my Instagram the most.
It was
And
going to be my next question that I asked you, like to get into True Shot. So this is
yeah,
perfect timing. Like
yeah, we can
let's
talk
get
about
into it.
that. And I'll talk about like how the song came out and how I made it in a minute. Um, but that song, like what? So when I first, uh, when I made that song, I was living in Australia at the time. I was living in Melbourne, and I went into this studio called Newmarket Studios, which is where like Courtney Barnett has recorded there, and I worked with who's now my current mix engineer is his name's Gus Hovenars, and he's from I think he's from the Netherlands. Anyway, that's beside the point. I always forget.
Yeah.
He's gonna kill me for this when he hears me say this. But yeah, anyway, he I produced the track at home, but then I brought it in for him to mix into this really cool studio. And we were so proud of the track. We were like dancing around the studio and having a great time. And it was the first time I'd ever done that. And I didn't realize that that was like a special thing when that happens, when someone you don't know who works with musicians all the time is really excited about what's been created in that
Hmm.
studio. And I felt so proud of it. And then I started sending it out to blogs and like playlists, and I think it got like 200 rejections on that track. Like,
Yeah.
and the number one thing that people were saying were, sorry, I just couldn't get into the vocals on this one. And I, at the time, it was a really big deal for me to put my vocals on a track, and I was
Yeah,
feeling
yeah, I'm sure with this
so
whole conversation we just had and this being like kind of
right.
your
I was
first big
feeling
song, it's like dang,
totally.
that's such a blow today.
It was
I'm
such
just
a
like
blow, and it immediately played into this, you know, insecurity that I had harbored for years, right? And I felt so embarrassed, and like I sort of got really in my head about it, and I kind of I don't want to say that I began like this trajectory of like kind of a slow burn of I didn't give up. I just didn't really I don't know. I just it got really in my head. Like I got very in my head about this whole thing. And the irony is that like I submitted it to so wait, how did this happen? Right. So eventually I kind of like um realized that I was, you know, probably being stupid and I should just give it a go and I should send it. I should try advertising it on Instagram and see what happens. So I did that. And then that's when all of these people started contacting me about it. And it did well. And people were messaging me, telling me how much they loved the song and how much it meant to them and all these things. And I kind of realized then that when it comes to music, it's not about and I know many people have said this before, but it's not about appealing to as many, like to everyone. It's about like as
Yeah.
long as you have a small percentage of very engaged people where your music means something to them, then that is a marker of quality. And you don't really need to think about the rest. And also with the blogs, like when I first started submitting to blogs, and I told you I got like those 200 rejections
Yeah.
and whatnot, right? Something around there. There were still, I think there were like 10 bloggers and playlisters who loved the track and were like, I can't stop listening to it. But at the time, like, I was like, oh, that doesn't mean anything. And I just focused so much
Yeah.
on all
Yeah.
of
You're
these
just
rejections.
focusing on the negative.
Yeah, of course. And I mean, and apparently, like, negativity bias is a thing. Like, it's part
Oh,
of our, built
definitely.
into our
Yeah. Like
survival, right?
I feel like I've heard similar stories from so like in everything, like music content creators. It's like you'll get positive feedback and you're like, cool, 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 because that's like kind of what you're hoping for or expecting, and then like a negative thing happens, and especially if it's like with the voice thing, especially if it's something you're like insecure about or you believe, you're like, oh man, and that like one negative thing like wrecks you, and so especially when the negativity is kind of outnumbering or outweighing the positive, it's tough to overcome.
Totally. And when people, the irony is that when people reached out to me about the song, they're like, "Oh my God, I love your voice." Like, and they're like, "It's so special," and et cetera, and
Yeah.
all these things. And then I kind of started thinking, I was like, okay, well, I guess I've been a bit crazy, you know, and so I sent it into like BBC radio, and the DJ, Dave Gilliott, he ended up playing it on the radio and kind of giving it a shout out, and he asked me to come on and talk about the track.
Awesome.
Yeah, and so that was cool. I mean, it was like a pre-recording, but just to introduce myself, and then I entered the song into a competition that was like hosted by this BBC Six music DJ. Can't believe I'm blanking on his name right now. I feel so bad. Tom Robinson, I think, is his name. And I got True True Shot got like first place in that
Hmm.
competition. And so I think the moral of the story is that uh you just can't let what doesn't necessarily perform well like with bloggers might, it might still have an audience and it might perform well in other landscapes, you know, in other environments. So
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
Hey heroes, sorry to interrupt that podcast episode, which I hope you are enjoying, but I wanted to tell you about my clothing line, Quest Clothing. Ever since I started really pursuing YouTube and music and all these creative things that I do, I've dreamed about starting this clothing line specifically. I had the name, I had the idea like for years before I started it, and now it's finally here. You can wear clothes like this. I have sweatshirts available, t-shirts, even clothing for like my music with cover arts and lyrics and things like that. It's all super, super cool. And right now is the best way for you guys to support me across everything I do. So be sure to check out the Quest Clothing web store with the link in the description and follow at Shop Quest Clothing on Instagram for updates about collections, discounts, things like that. Anyways, I don't want this self-sponsorship to take too long, so let's get back to the episode.
I think it's a big thing of just like really letting go of needing everyone to like it, because there's nothing that every single person likes, you know, at least art wise. And so it's uh like a big example of this recently is John Bellion, who I really like. His latest album, Father Figure, is like it's his kind of return to artistry. He took a big 6 years or something gap in releasing his own music to just be a songwriter, a producer, things like that, because he was in a bad label situation, a bad deal, and basically was like, I'm going to stop making like solo music, and they were like, yeah, sure you will, and then he actually did, and like for 6 years
Yeah.
didn't put out solo stuff. So this album was kind of like his return to it. He has 3 kids now, I think, or something like that, and the album's called Father Figure. It's all about being a dad, and he this whole release process, he was like, the the money for music videos and releasing and promotion is coming from me. Like, I'm touring myself. I don't have a deal with Live Nation or anything. Like, he's only done, I think, 2 or 3 shows, but he was like, I paid for those shows myself. Like, everything is self-funded, self-released with him right now. And uh in a recent interview, or I the interview was like kind of towards the start of the summer, an interview I recently heard, he was talking like, I don't need everyone to love it. I don't need it to get the most streams on Spotify. He's like, because the whole album is about him being a father now. He's like, if some dad like wakes up and just like needs this album to like get out of bed and be a good dad, or like kind of give him that reassurance to keep going, like that is way more meaningful to me than having a billion streams on Spotify or anything. Like, having people that authentically connect with it and are like, I needed this, or like really represent what the album's about, is just the point for him.
Yeah. I mean, totally, that's completely true. And it's also, that is actually also a sign of true fandom, is like
Yeah.
having people that actually feel that emotionally connected to the music. And it's
Yeah.
that will always be a subset. It will always be a very small percentage compared to your overall listener base or the overall population,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Like the
He made the
super fan
same,
or whatever.
like, kind of building off our social media thing. He was critiquing it of for the singles, at least. Maybe I can't remember if he did it for the album itself too, but definitely for the singles and music videos, 48 hours before they released, he everyone on his email list got an email with the song or the music video before it was like released to the world. And he was like talking about Instagram, and he's saying, I have however many followers on Instagram, but I keep hearing that a post only gets to a small fraction of your following, or 3%, or whatever the number is.
Yeah,
And he goes, well, if I have a smaller number of people on my email list, but they're people who really, really like my music and really love like what I'm doing, want to connect with it, open it a lot more, or are a lot more attentive to it than scrolling social media. I want that. Like, that's gonna be so much better of a result than needing to post X times on Instagram to reach the like everyone who follows you.
completely. It's about kind of the whole mailing list thing. I've actually been starting to try to build a mailing
Yeah,
list,
yeah,
which
no, it's a great thing.
is on my link tree via Instagram, I should say,
There
on
you
my
go.
Instagram
Yeah, yeah.
profile.
Link
You
in
can sign
bio.
up for it there, anyone watching. But like, no, I know it's about these big tech companies, like they have our data. Like it's the same in terms of our listenership data and all of our data in general, but like the they kind of hold the access, which in some ways it makes sense, but like even on Spotify, when you release a song, only like 5% ish of your followers on Spotify are actually going to hear it, even if they're following
Hmm.
you. It like won't necessarily get on their release radar.
Yeah.
So it's a similar issue, and that's why I wish that I had known how important mailing lists are from the beginning. I would have been like building it while I was running ads.
Yeah.
And I didn't do that, but you live and you learn, I guess, you know.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Um, but yeah, it's a huge thing. Just the direct. It's good to have a more direct line without like a social media platform being the middle ground. Like, it's essentially through email, like artist to fan, and and that's
Yeah.
kind of it. I know myself and some other people like use different newsletter sites that you could kind of call a middle ground, but essentially it's still sending like their purpose is whoever's on your list is going to get the email. You're any of these sites, you're not going to have a problem of like Instagram, you post, it only goes to a fraction of your followers. That's not the case with email. It will get sent to everyone on the email list. Opening it is another story, but like it is actually like whoever's on that list is going to get everything that you send out every time. And so it's yeah, it's just a lot better to kind of have that more direct line to it.
Yeah.
I'm curious because like basically True True Shot was kind of earlier on for you and still your biggest song, I'll say, at least on Spotify, or like, it's like you said, what a lot of people also reach out to you about. Crumb Giver is more recent and has this little bump in like TikTok videos and everything, but just listening to them, like they're two very different sounding songs.
It's so different.
Your style has changed so much over time. Like
Yeah, yeah.
how, just take me into that kind of evolution of your sound. Was it um natural, or yeah, just tell me about going from a bit more like instrumental acoustic sounding to very like electronic psychedelic rock sounding.
Yeah. Well, I think, well, True to Shot is still pretty psychedelic,
Yeah, but
different in a different way. They still have, I think that's the one through line, that and my voice, but I completely
mhm.
agree with you that they are totally, they're very, they're very different.
Yeah,
And actually,
well,
that was
because
a concern of mine when I released Part of the reason I forgot to mention this, part of the reason I dragged my heels on releasing Crumb Giver is, other than it not knowing if it was, too, if it was too harsh, or not wanting to bring back the up the past again and stuff. I was just like, I'm really worried my fan base is going to be pissed at me, like for releasing this song that's so clearly electronic, and I don't know if they're going to like it, and they might be really disappointed because I know that they want, like, probably a fair portion of them want a True True Shot 2.0 or whatever. And
yeah,
I tried doing that. I made a song called Bed-Stuy 79, which was a little bit funkier, I'd say, than True True Shot, which is True True Shot's slightly a little bit more krautrock and like post-punk and like 60s as well. Um, but yeah, like I think for me, it's just that I as a musician and as a producer and a songwriter, I have always like listened to everything. Like I
hmm
listen to and appreciate every genre, like
yeah,
uh hip hop, Motown, like funk, soul, like cumbia music, sub-Saharan like rock, like psychedelic cumbia, like chicha, like all sorts of stuff, like even some gospel, like some classical, like reggae. Sorry, I don't need to list off every
no,
single band,
yeah,
but
yeah, no, but yeah, I get it. Where
like
I
I know
have
you get it, like because I've
like
seen your
my
TikTok
library
too, and
is
it's a really
the
varied
most
taste.
random collection of songs.
Yeah, yeah, totally. But I think they were all really good selections. I was like going through them today, actually. I was like, yeah, no, these are all great songs, and I
Oh,
can
thanks.
see
Yeah.
that he has a varied taste as well. But so, and I think that a lot of this happens where at the time, like I just, before I wrote Crumb Giver, I happened to have downloaded like the Arturia plugin pack of
hmm
like synthesizers, right? And there are all these retro synths, and a lot of them are like, there's quite a few like ARP synthesizer settings, and I was just messing around, and I didn't really. I find that a lot of times, like it is helpful to have a direction, like, but sometimes when you go into a track being like, I'm gonna make a song that sounds like XYZ, at least for me, it doesn't always really work out. Sometimes
Yeah.
it can work in your favor by giving you like a narrower box in which you have to be
Yeah.
creative and inventive. But um it really just came about as a result of me. Like, I just thought it sounded cool and I had something that I wanted to say. And I was like, well, those are the two things that are important, right? Like, it just felt like it had a really kind of more of a clubbier kind of vibe to it. It made me want to dance. And
Yeah.
everything just came from that ARP synth. And I was like, well, to hell with it. Like, I'm just gonna release it. And I do like electronic music. Like, at least I wouldn't say I'm like super into EDM. That tends to be like something I'm not as into, but I do like house
Mhm.
music and
Okay, yeah.
I like some EDM actually. But God, I've just been ranting this whole time. I'm
It's
sorry.
no, it's all right. I love it. I love it.
I kind of
And I
lost
no, I
focus
kind of
there
get it. It's
on your
like
question.
EDM or especially
Yeah,
certain genres including EDM are just so broad
they're
that
very broad.
like
Yeah.
yeah, it's there's so much there's for example, actually just kind of recently, I want to say um 2 months ago ish, 1.5, 2 months ago, I was with someone like wanting to I mean I'm sure they've heard it before, but like introduce them to EDM or show them some more EDM stuff. And I was like trying to gauge what to show them, where it was all EDM, but some of it was like very heavy, like head banging, almost like dubstep level, and then a lot of it was just very chill, like electro pop, and like kind of similar to that of just you can listen to it almost like a pop song. It still has cool vocals, and so it's such a wide range that even if you only like a portion of it, I'm like you can still find things you like in basically any genre.
Yeah, exactly. That's completely
Yeah.
true. It's and EDM is like one of the broadest
Yeah.
genres like I
Yeah.
can think of. And yeah, and I also like other types of electronic music like dark wave and new wave music and like things like that. So
Hmm.
I don't know. I think I probably will go back to I was thinking that I might actually start like having releasing more electronic music under like Vanessa Van Ness and like another name to differentiate
Mm.
when a track is going to be more electronic. And then the
Yeah.
stuff that's just Vanessa Van Ness will be like more psych rock and like return back to the whole kind of like true shot vibe. Um, so I might do that. I know that Gus
Yeah.
Dapperton has recently done that. I don't know if you saw, but he's doing that now with like,
Yeah, I haven't seen him
yeah.
do it, but I know one of my favorite producers and who's also like massive, Calvin Harris, who I
Oh
like
yeah.
he's huge and he has that, but then oh, don't let me forget. He has another project similar to that where he has another artist name called Love Regenerator that's like all about like club house like disco sounding music, and whenever he wants to make something like that he puts it under that name because at first I saw like a bunch of songs by like Calvin Harris and Love Regenerator, and I was like, who is Love Regenerator, and was like trying to look into it, and then it was like, oh, that's just Calvin Harris under a different name, and I was like, okay, that's cool that it's he just has this as an outlet for things that are kind of back to his roots or things that he wants to make. And I always love artists being open to just making whatever. You said that you looked through some of my stuff. Like I am very much a make whatever kind of
Yeah.
producer of just it'll be a rap song, then a pop song, and then house, and then it's like I'm trying to get better at like focusing on a genre to get better at. For now, that's kind of rap. But as I say that, I'm posting videos of this like house electronic ish song that I'm working on and
Yeah.
wanting to put out. And so, yeah. But
So,
for sorry, did you have something else to say? Because I thought of a question, but I don't want to cut you off if you're
oh,
continuing
do you see
with
you're gonna
like the
forget the
second artist
question?
name and
Yeah.
yeah. So I was just curious because under the name Vanessa Van Ness, and I know your name's Vanessa, so that's probably like part of it. But for maybe this other artist name or just anything, or even Vanessa Van Ness, like what was the process of coming up with the name, or what was your thought process surrounding like an artist name?
Um, well, I like kind of like thought about a lot of different names over the years, and my I have a close friend, and we were gonna start a band for ages, and now we finally are starting a band, but that's a different
Awesome.
story. But like we had different names for the band, and I was always like, I'm a chronic overthinker. Like I would always be like, oh no, I need to sit with this name for a while because gonna be stuck with it, and et cetera,
Yeah.
et cetera. And how does it sound? And does it sound cool enough? And like blah blah blah. But Vanessa Van Ness came about because, people ask me if it's a stage name or not. It's a stage name. Although my first name is actually Vanessa.
Yeah.
Um, but it came about because my best friend from since I was like 19, there's like a street that you probably know of, the Boulevard Van Ness in Los Angeles.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when we were driving by it, like, when we were like kids or like teenagers, I mean, like she would just be like, haha, like Vanessa Van Ness, and we would just joke about that. Like she'd be like,
Hmm.
it's your street. It's just like a stupid thing. And I also used to hang out around Van Ness, uh, like in San Francisco when I would visit friends and things. And there's another street
Hmm.
there by the same name,
Okay.
and that's how it came about. And it felt catchy, and I'm not necessarily a fan of Marky Mark, but I kind of thought about that where I was like, oh, it's alliteration where the first name is like also the last name as
Hmm.
well, in addition to being alliteration. So yeah, I
Yeah.
wish I had a more interesting story around
No,
it.
no,
But that's
I love it. Yeah, and I like that it has some connection to like where you grew up in the childhood memories. Like that's awesome. Like, because
yeah,
I've heard everything from like overthinking and carefully constructing a name to just like yeah, it was like my friend said it and it sounded funny and I was like that could be an artist name. So like I've heard both ends of the spectrum and
yeah,
but I'm always like curious to even if someone's releasing music under just like their actual name, I'm curious as to that, and I'm always like, did you ever think of like going under an artist name, or like did they want to be very authentic? Like, I guess it'd be yeah, transparent, just like come be under your actual name, like. Inherently, making music under your real name is a choice, but or like choosing an artist name. It's just like you chose to not use a stage name or to not use an artist name.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, I'm always interested. So no matter the story, it's great. Um, yeah,
totally.
I think you mentioned it back towards the start of the or maybe not. Maybe I'm just making that up and thinking back to when I was trying to learn more about you.
Yeah,
But your parents were pretty into music. I read that your mom was like a folk artist. Your dad was had a very big take on music of like thing that it was just like the most absolute art form. Like loved it as a listener and as an art. What kind of role did that play in growing up or discovering music? Like did you kind of did that love of music from your parents kind of transfer to and find like is that part of where you found the love for music?
yeah. I say so. My mother was or is like a folk artist in the sense
Hmm.
of being like a painter. So she likes to make
Got
some
you.
visual folk art, but
Gotcha.
but she still likes music. But I wouldn't say that music was like or is her passion. She's like more into. She was like a hat maker and a painter. Um,
Okay.
but my dad, he makes furniture, or and he but he like always loved music, and he always had wished that he had played an instrument and had learned. And he would always, I'd always be like, Dad, you know, you can still learn. And he'd be like,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah, there's no age limit
be
on
like,
this.
oh, it's too late for me. Stuff like that. I'd be like, no, 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 it's too late for me. And like, you know, all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But like yeah, my dad was definitely it's interesting about my dad because he, on the one hand, I mean, I love my dad very much, and vice versa, but he's such a kind of perfectionist, and a bit of a critic as well for himself, and to just, he holds his work to a really high standard. And yet, like, but he, at the same time, even though he was hard to please, he was also extremely encouraging of my music. And he got me a guitar. I think he got me a Spanish guitar when I was 12. And that's really when I started playing. And I think the first instrument I played was piano, I think when I was about 9 or 10. And he also got me into that. But he just, yeah, he absolutely loves music, and he would play, like, he was very into early American blues and later kind of blues based music like Howlin' Wolf. And so I kind of had a real appreciation through him. He was also really into classical music. And I think also there was a natural, it, I don't know if they say like music interest or creative interest is genetic. I wouldn't be surprised if it is to an extent.
Hmm.
Although I do have friends who are like really creative whose parents aren't. And my
Yeah,
parents'
yeah.
parents weren't creative very much. So
Hmm.
I, even though my parents are super creative,
Yeah.
so
No, that's interesting. I
uh,
haven't like
yeah,
really thought of that. I've heard quick just like thoughts or discussions on it, but I'm interested
yeah.
if there's any like actual research behind it.
Yeah. So, anyway, that, yes, to answer your
Yeah,
question,
yeah,
I said I would give shorter answers.
yeah. That's all
Um,
right.
to answer your question, yes, and my parents had a big influence, in particular my dad, and I think he's a fan, or he has said that he's a fan of my music now, which is great because
That's
he's
awesome.
pretty
That's the
picky. He's pretty
Yeah.
picky about what he
Yeah.
likes.
That's like
So
a huge goal. Like
yeah,
I want my parents, I want my family to enjoy the music. That's like
yeah.
first level.
Mm.
Um, yeah, awesome. Well, just a super interesting fact I also read about you all trying to learn more was you grew up in the same building that Jim Morrison used to live in before his
Yeah,
success.
yeah,
Just
yeah.
tell me, like that's such a cool like fun fact for like icebreaker activities, but also, and maybe this is like too abstract of a question, and I know you also have like a past in TV and film, so maybe like
Mhm.
music wasn't as much of a focus at this point, but did you feel any kind of like connection or pressure to living in that space of like, oh, if I want to do music, like it's got to be something because like I'm sharing this space or I'm living in this space that Jim Morrison used to live in, and not that you were living there like at the same time,
Yeah,
but
yeah, totally. Well, so the backstory with the Jim Morrison thing is that, so the Doors, so I'm from Venice Beach, and the
mhm,
Venice Beach area of LA, and the Doors were formed there,
mhm,
and which you may already know. And but Jim Morrison was spending a long time before he formed the Doors. He was like just bumming around Venice, writing poetry and things like that, and staying with his friends. So he had a friend who lived in the building that I grew up in, and he was staying there. And I don't know how long he was staying there for, but I think it was a significant amount of time.
yeah,
And it ended up being that when the Doors decided to form, like, the story goes, I think, it's not John Densmore, I think it's the bassist from the Doors, him and the bassist, I think, but don't
okay,
quote me on that, I could be wrong.
yeah,
They went down like a block down onto the beach from where I grew up, and they decided to form the Doors there. And then when the Morrison Hotel album was about to come out, they went around with this photographer named Henry Diltz, and they were doing like walking band photos, trying to figure out either album art or like promo
Press
material
photos, yeah.
photos, right? And what they ended up actually standing in front of the building that I grew up in and taking photos in front of that building. And
That's
so there's
cool.
now I can, yeah, I'll send you the photos. It's really kind of crazy. And then they went downtown, and that's where they shot the cover of the Morrison Hotel, like
Hmm.
vinyl, like that iconic, like.
Yeah,
So to answer your question, like I think I felt more inspired than anything else. Like
yeah,
Venice was a
because
huge
that's also
cultural
a huge
influence.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a huge influence on me just growing up there, because there were a lot of bands. I was a huge fan of the Doors, and I still am. But like bands like X and Suicidal Tendencies and like, you know, those kind of bands. But I think I didn't feel pressure about it. I think the pressure that I felt, I definitely did feel pressure that I had to be really good. And I certainly had like a chip on my shoulder about it. And I still probably do, of like these really like high expectations of everything has to be
Yeah.
like really, really great, or I'm not going to release it, or, you know, that kind of stuff. And, but I think that mainly comes from my dad, because my dad was like, he he was like this sort of master craftsman of furniture, and he at one point he made furniture for Bob Dylan, who was like his
That's
idol.
awesome.
I know,
Yeah.
right? Really cool. And John Fogerty, who was the lead singer of CCR.
Yeah.
Who
Just
he
more
says
more music
John
connections.
Fogerty he says John Fogerty, he still has held a grudge all these years later, because he says John Fogerty owes him money for a table or something like that that he made for him. He's like, oh, he never paid me because he wasn't happy with the job, or like something like that, you know. I'm
Yeah.
making him sound way more grumbly than he is. He's actually pretty charming, but
Yeah.
um uh yeah, so but my dad was like really intimidatingly good at what he did, and was a total perfectionist and still is. And so I think that that kind of
That behavior kind of
rubbed
carried over
that
to your
neurosis,
music.
yeah, that
Yeah.
neurosis like rubbed off on me for sure. And so if there was any pressure, it definitely came from that. But that's also why he was great. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
exactly. That's a
it's like,
there's pros and cons to it, but that's a good problem to have of like only
yeah,
wanting to put out your best work. Like that's a great thing to do. And it is always kind of a give and take, I feel like, because there are artists that I love that have things vaulted or like unreleased stuff, and a lot of fans of people are like, no, I want to like hear that, like put it out. But then it's also a matter of the artist just being like, maybe this isn't my best work, maybe it didn't fit what I wanted to make at the time, whatever the reason might be. Like there's some reason why they didn't put it out, if that makes sense.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, it's an interesting dynamic between like fans wanting to hear everything and artists, some artists like having a kind of bar to pass for music of like it has to fit just right, or be meet certain criteria, which is fair. But yeah, I don't want to hold you here and take up too much of your time because I know you have to run soon. But I loved this conversation. I loved learning more about your music and everything you do, and so I'd love to also in the future, if you ever want to come back on with like a new song or anything, feel free to reach out and come back. But yeah, I just can't wait to hear like what's next for you and see where you go from here.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'm sound scoring an indie film at the moment, actually. I'm doing the
That's
soundtrack
awesome.
for
See,
it.
I could get into a whole nother conversation around that if we weren't
All
running
badass.
out of time. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Because that's
Yeah.
something I've like personally wanted. It's kind of like insecurity and vocals at the start thing. It's like I want to get into it, but also like if someone gives me an opportunity to score something, I'm like, oh, that's like too much pressure. Like I don't want to score
Yeah.
something and have it not be good, you know, like but I also need something to score. It's crazy, but yeah, that's so cool. And I can
It
wait to
is
hear that as
pressure.
well.
I
Yeah.
feel, trust me, I'm feeling the pressure. The pressure is
Awesome.
there. So
Yeah.
we'll see how it turns out, but I'll be releasing new songs with that soundtrack. So and hopefully I think the movie is going to be out at some point next year, maybe hopefully end of next year, but I'm not fully sure yet. But yeah, it's got
Awesome.
Lil Rel Howery in it, who was he was the guy from Get Out, who not the main guy, he's the guy who rescues his friend, and then
Awesome.
yeah, who comes in the police
Yeah.
car.
Yeah.
Uh and yeah, it's got Lindsay Shaw in it, and she was in Ned's Declassified and like Pretty Little Liars. I never watched Ned's Declassified, but
Okay. I feel like I've seen like an episode or some clips of it, so maybe I'd recognize the face, but
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
That's like
And a lot of other talented people are in it as well.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, well
yeah,
that's awesome. Can't wait to hear that. Yeah, if there's anything else you want to shout out, promote where people can find you, feel free to do that now.
yeah. Oh,
But
totally. You can follow me so
no
bad.
worries. No worries.
Yeah, if you want to follow me on Instagram, and feel free to, it's Vanessa underscore Van underscore Ness underscore. And you can follow me on Spotify under Vanessa Van Ness. And I'm new to TikTok, but you can absolutely follow me on TikTok. Same handle as Instagram,
Yeah.
and also Bandcamp.
Email list in the
Great.
link tree in the
Oh yeah,
Instagram
and in my
bio.
Instagram profile, if you really would like to
Yeah.
support me, sign up for that mailing list, and I'll send you stuff. Anyway,
Awesome. Yeah, well, I'll leave links to some of that down below, but thank you again so much for coming on. I had a great time and I hope you did too.
yeah, I did. This was great. I had a really good conversation, and we'll have to do this again. And I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me.